Welcome to Ren Behind the Practice. I'm Sophie Campisi. I'm a holistic business strategist and startup expert, and I spend a lot of my time in conversation with practitioners, coaches, and healers about the behind the scenes of their businesses. What I started noticing is that some of the most honest, important conversations about building a practice were happening quietly, one-on-one, behind the scenes, and often in isolation. Most practitioners are incredibly skilled at the work they do with their clients, but very few of us were ever taught or trained in how to build a successful startup business. And suddenly we've been left to figure it out on our own. This podcast exists to bring those conversations forward, the dreams, the uncertainty, the highs and lows, the recalibrations, and the messy middle. My hope is that by normalizing these conversations, we can soften the stigma, feel less alone, and start closing the gaps together. Today's guest is Amanda Meggait. Amanda is an integrative, trauma-informed energy practitioner and registered therapeutic counselor candidate based online and in person in the Lower Mainland, BC, Canada. Amanda, it is so great to have you here. Thank you for showing up and having this conversation with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Sophie.
Before we look behind the scenes, can you share with us a little bit more about the work that you do?
Yeah, so I got into energy work because I was a client. I had multiple autoimmune conditions for 15 years of chronic pain, chronic hives, auto infections, you name it. It was weird. It was painful. And I tried everything. And a friend said, "Oh, you should try seeing this person." And I went in. They used muscle monitoring. So she was asking my body some questions, told me to think this. I remember thinking, I've never said that out loud. How do you know I think that? It's not like I had like a miracle session and I walked out pain free, but that like, how did you know? I think that moment was like kind of like the real hook. And I kept going within 2 years. I was pain free. I did work with a naturopath in that time too, but I'd worked with naturopaths before and hadn't really gotten any traction. So after being in pain for that long, and now you're pain free, I felt like I have to do this. So I started taking classes. So that was 2018. I certified in 2021. The modality I trained in, you had to take 6 levels. They were 30 hours each level. Then you had practicum in between. So you had to do case studies, your own work, whatever else. So it's quite a process. In that process, I left a marriage, left a career, left a friend group, or they left me. So basically, nothing in my life was the same. 365 days later, the only thing that was the same was thankfully my siblings, my relationship with my kids, like those things were good. I had a few friends that stuck around, but it was a lot, and I was quite driven. I really felt like this is what I'm supposed to do. But starting a holistic healing business that kind of relies on in person in COVID was as challenging as you would think it is. Yeah. And I really had great support. I was able to do like a self-employment program through a government agency here. And I connected with my business mentor, who's now a dear friend. But it's like an odd industry. It was odd, I still have a hard time saying this is what I do. It's hard to explain. I really don't like telling client stories. I don't actually, you're not supposed to, like I think. And so it's tough. I have some stories that people say, "Oh yeah, you can tell," or they write it like, they'll write in a review or whatever. But and then it's also different. It's different with every client. So the energy work, as much as I loved it, was a slog. And the more I did, I got like the more people came in, it was more trauma based. Like all of a sudden, people are just telling perfect stories of when they're 5 years old and something's happening to them. And I just was like, how do I stay ahead of what people are bringing in? How do I stay grounded with what they're bringing in? So I would, read this book, go to this 3-hour class, go to this thing. And eventually they started to get the things I would sign up for were getting longer and longer. I did a 330-hour course over a year with Garber Mate, not with him. It was pre-recorded, but we had our groups we met online. We did try and practice every week. That's called Compassionate Inquiry. And at the end of that year, which was like so transformative in so many different ways, I was like, screw it. I'm gonna go back to school and become a counselor. So I finished that in February of this year. So I'm 4 months into being a counselor. Here we have to register and you have to do all these things. So it's probably different wherever you are in the world. And I think at this point in time, how much money have I made as a counselor? So my registration and insurance and all that kind of stuff came through like 2 months ago. Not even. I think I've made $400. So that's where I'm at. Yeah. So I'm very much like counseling to me is the same kind of as energy work. It's body based. I like it client led. Like I much more of like a mentoring style, like coaching, teaching. even with the energy work. And yeah, so I really enjoy counseling. I find it's less work, there's less expectations. And I think it kind of aligns more with like feel it, like I want people to feel it all. And I noticed a lot in the modality I was in, there was a bit of a disconnect, like a bypass from being present in the now, and feeling everything. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Yeah, it all makes total sense. When it comes to the counseling, where you live, can you integrate the energy work fully in with counseling, or does it have to be separate?
It has to be separate. So initially so I had my business I've had for 5 years was Horizon Energetics. And then I joined a counseling. I did my practicum with this like cool woman. We did a group for neurodivergent women, which is a place I really like to work with, like sensitive folks, neurodivergent kids, teens, you name it. And so we did this group. It was great. And she was like, come on, like come on with the practice. And they're all social workers and registered clinical counselors, which I don't have a master's. So to be a clinical counselor, you have to have a master's. And I'm in my mid-40s. I didn't want to go to school that long again. I did do 2 years, but I didn't have a bachelor's, so it would have been 6 years for me to do it. And I didn't want to, so I didn't. And yeah, so I had two different business cards. I've got the business cards for counseling, the business card for energy work. And that's what I have been running the last like 3 months. And it was exhausting. I was so burnt out. Like I was like, what is going on? Like it's really horrific. That's the word that comes to mind. And then I just kind of asked more questions and I was like, can I at least have the same website? Can I something? And so the governing body I'm with, they were like, if it's two separate sessions, there's two separate intakes. It's very clear it's two different services. You can have it under one umbrella. So like just last week, I was like, okay, change the name. It's now Horizon Integrative Wellness. I have one business card and it feels a lot better. So yes, but it is two separate things. However, I would say the energy work very much informs how I counsel. Like there's different counseling modalities like internal family systems or narrative therapy and all the somatic approaches that are like, to me, it is energy work. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And obviously, the reason I asked it is because I talked to so many people who are in your shoes. Either they were therapists, licensed therapists, counselors, psychologists coming out because they wanted more freedom. They wanted to come more into the coaching model because they were tired of the tightness and the limitations that they had with their license. Um, then they're coming out. Some who have like just fully like full on, I'm just committing to entrepreneurship. And then they're dealing with the realities of entrepreneurship
Mhm.
that have caught them off guard. Some
Right.
who are, but a lot who are doing both, either because they did more what you did, they added that on after, and it's allowing some relief, from pure entrepreneurship because there's a little more structure and there's a little bit of a more clear business model to, having a license. You can, be an employee, or people are looking for counselors, and insurance, can be accepted, and all these different things. But underneath all of that, looking from my lens as the business builder and the strategist, it's two business models that you're running at the same time. So it doesn't surprise me that you're like, this is exhausting, because you have two things running kind of parallel, and some, a little bit of overlap. But the reality is, yeah, it's two different business models.
Yeah, I think the counseling just feels so much easier in so many different ways that it's like, and now I can just let the energy work just be, right? Because all along I had a few people trickle in. Because when I was in school, I haven't advertised, I haven't had a social media post, I haven't had a newsletter since September of 2025, right? So like, no, 2024, sorry. I was like, wait, that wasn't that long ago. So yeah, those people just come, they just kind of find you, and then it's just kind of fun. It's just the icing on a cake. It's much more of like a mentoring type, like it's yeah, super sensitive energy people that are having these experiences and they need to integrate them, figure them out, and have a lens for the world that helps them make sense. So yeah, now I can just let that breathe and be and not worry about it. So that feels
I
good.
have to put so much pressure. In episode
Yeah.
74, I talked to Rada, and she, similar in what you said, she's like, there's a lot more in her therapy sessions, she's just like, I can just relax more. It's a little more passive and it's just like feels easier than where she's more in full on entrepreneurship with meditation and other things where like it's entrepreneurship. It's full on startup entrepreneurship. These are the hardest types of businesses to start. Gets easier later, but if you don't understand how to start them, it is the hardest. And she had a very similar experience like you. She's like, I enjoy those because it's easier sometimes. I can just kind of like chill and sit in there and be with the client more. So yeah, it's very interesting.
I guess my client expectations are different too from energy work to counseling. Like some people come in with energy work and they literally want you to tell them everything or what are you seeing? It's just like this, like da 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 da. And I'm like, hold on, like it doesn't really matter what I'm seeing. Like what's happening for you? And with counseling, no one's ever like, what are you seeing? Do you see my grandfather? Do you, like it's yeah. So it's like that whole part, like it's like we're playing on one plane here consciously, like subconsciously, there's always other stuff going on, but like there isn't this expectation from the client. And so I find that quite refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I appreciate you adding that piece to it because yeah, it makes a lot of sense. There is interestingly, I think it actually comes back down to I guess I've had people say that in little different ways here and there, but I think that what it comes back down to comes back to like what I do now for work, which is I think people are struggling so much with the business side that they don't know how to set those clear expectations for clients and they're containerless and there are so many more expectations. And I think that it can be counterintuitive for people because they're like, but I don't want to limit myself. I want to work with anyone. I want to do, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it sets us up for situations like exactly what you're talking about. Then the expectations for the clients are not going to have containers. It affects us in the long run, even though it can feel counterintuitive when we're like, but I don't want to limit myself. Not only is it not going to work on the business side, if you don't get really clear and focused at the beginning, you will never be able to build your business long term. It just won't happen. People are realizing that now, even though, you and I kind of talked about it. We want it to be different, but the reality is it just won't. We can't bypass that. Like we can't just keep, saying it'll just happen. All the pieces will come together. They won't.
Yeah. It's
Unless there's an intervening piece, right?
Yeah.
It won't happen. But what's also happening is it's also causing a lot of breakdowns. And you adding this piece is another one. And I tell people, to build air quotes the right way, to do it in a way that adds structure and some amount of certainty to where success is going to happen and something that you can rely on. It's vital that you nail what I call your zone of impact, that it's not as simple as niche because niching does not cover it. It's why it's not working for people. But also what that allows, it's not just that's how you can successfully find a place to start, like anchor in and start building from. You also become masterful at that area. So you become the go-to person. You end up with clients, people like, I just wish I had clients that were XYZ. It's not really the client's problem. It's we're not setting that container tight enough and strong enough in like our business model and how we're presenting ourselves for them to be really clear what they're getting. When we do that piece, we end up with perfect clients. Not because it's magical and we magnetize, but it's actually more what you're talking about. The expectations are really clear, right? Like, you have more confidence to say, this is what I do. This is who I help. So your confidence is better, but you can like guarantee results. You've worked with this type of person over and over again, but you have so much more clarity in those sessions, what you're experiencing with counseling, because people know what to expect from therapy or counseling. Like it's just something that's set. So for those of us in the holistic world, in these unregulated spaces, we're bringing something new to the market. Not only on the business side does it allow you to create a business model that will actually work long term, but it solves so much of the breakdown, what you're talking about, of the unclear expectations and like over giving because like you feel like you need to over deliver because you're not really sure. Like all of the stuff that's like making it energetically unsustainable for us with the work gets solved also if you tighten up and fine tune the business model, which again, it's counterintuitive. It's not sexy. It's not really what people want to hear, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find for me, I was getting a lot better at giving those expectations to people, right? Like it's like, well, here's what we're doing. But then it also kind of, because when I tell my story and I talk about the pain and this and this and that, people are like, I want that. And it's like, okay, I went through 2 years of extension, like extensive. I was going for sessions every 2 to 4 weeks at least. I was at the naturopath. I didn't, like, I changed my diet. I was taking supplement. Like, I did a lot of things at once. And then I went through hell. I left a marriage. I left a career. I lost all the people I thought I was going to grow old with. And it was like really, truly, like that's not sexy either. And so I've dialed back even my own story because it's like, okay, we can do this. You can do this. I know you can, but do you want to? And like, it's just going to be different than you think. I have said to people before, if I said, if you give me $10,000 right now and you're not going to have any pain anymore, you're not going to have this autoimmune disease or whatever it is, would you do it? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I said, okay, now go take that $10,000 over the next 2 years, go to a naturopath, get a therapist, do some energy work, and really sit with yourself. And you'll do it. And then just the fizzle out, right? It's like, yeah. And I think that's where I got clear at in communicating is like, I'm not doing the work for you. There's going to be a cost. And even going to counseling school, it really helped explain those things. And I see, like, yes, it's two different businesses, but I kind of see it as the same model. And maybe that's naive of me because I've only been doing it a few months. But like, we have to do informed consent. So it's like, here's the pros of therapy. Here are the cons. Here's what I will do. Here's what I won't do. And it's just like, oh, like my nervous system loves that. Like, it's like, as much as I want to live in a rainbow colored world, having some rules that are like black and white, it's like, okay, here's the thing, like, yes, totally cool. So I found like, as I've been in school the last couple of years, like integrating that in, I feel the pressure's off for me and it has shifted the energy work. And I like it. It's been good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The technical side is it's two different business models, but what you're saying, what I'm hearing is that learning more structure on the counseling side gave you something to mirror in the structureless world of entrepreneurship, holistic practice, holistic
Yeah.
being a holistic practitioner where there it's not regulated. People aren't often teaching you these things or showing you how to apply and create the structure into the actual business. And so yeah, I can totally see why that has benefited your holistic side and the energy side. Like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. When you look ahead to the next 6 to 12 months, what goals do you have for your work?
Well, next week, I've been kind of like walking the line or the fence or whatever the saying is on working in an office outside the house. And I am just going to shut down my home office and move everything into the office I rented and just kind of go all in on being in that space. So the space it's a larger room and I've got my massage table in the one corner and I'm going to bring in, a bunch of tools and whatever else. And then there's like a room divider, like just one of those little accordion folding ones. And then there's like a love seat and a couch and a coffee table. So like there's the counseling setup area and then there's the energy setup area. And so I'm just gonna be there. If I say I work Tuesdays, I'm just gonna go in on Tuesday, even if I don't have clients for a little bit and just do something. It's the summer. It's kind of hard to get people committed to things in the summer. Heck, I don't want to be in groups or really doing much in the summer, but I do want to start getting messaging out there. Come September, I wanted to be doing at least 2 groups. So, like low cost groups for moms of sensitive kids. So, like, you got your neurodivergent mamas and their babies, and it's tough. Like, having kids in the school system, when your kid, if the pants aren't fitting right and they're having a meltdown, you're trying to get out the door. By the time you get them to school, you're bracing for when the school calls. They come home, they're supposed to do reading. It takes another kid 5 minutes. It takes your kid 45 minutes. Like I was that mom and it's like all the frayed edges are just like, and I thought like, okay, what would I have liked? And I was like, yeah, I would have liked to go in another space with a bunch of moms and just be like, all right, this is also normal because you're kind of feeling like this isn't normal. So is that going to be energy? Is it going to be counseling? I don't know. It's just going to be under the umbrella. It's going to be super cheap. And I just want to bring like moms together and we'll see what happens. And then same kind of thing for sensitive adults. So just bringing in groups of people together. And then I'd like to also do one for therapists. So I have this space, and in that office space, I can actually fit like 8 people. So we've got a bunch of like comfy chairs I can pull in from the waiting area. And so I'm just going to make spaces, like 2 or 3 spaces a week for 8 people to get together. And then we'll see what happens.
Is the goal for these groups to use it as like a community cultivator, kind of like a momentum driver to make connections and build trust with people and also build your authority and all of these things, like to be the engine of, or, the fuel to an engine that hopefully you're able to build?
Yeah, totally. And I have in my history, actually, for the last 3 years, I quit. This is my last month. I was working extremely part-time as a contractor, doing events for a not-for-profit that supports small business in rural Canada. So it's all across Canada. And if you're in Canada and you're in a rural community, look up Community Features. It's just a plug. Everything they do is free. And they have it's great resources. And so I would go to events and I would say, have you heard of us? And here's what we can do. And here's some online workshops. And if you need a loan, like that's more flexible, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like always out there building community for someone else. And initially that was quite nice because I had lost my kind of world. And so it was a little bit gun shy about the world. So putting on a blazer with a name tag with someone else's business and going out there was like really good exposure therapy. So I did that for 3 years. And then recently I was like, I'm done doing this for someone else. I'm done building for someone else. I'm done fostering relationship for someone else. So yeah. And then before that, I did 3 years volunteering as at a not-for-profit, actually the governing body for the energy modality I was in. So the same kind of thing. It's like I've always been building community for someone else. And it's like, nah, I want to build communities that I want. So
I
yeah.
do. Yeah, I do. I had a conversation with someone on this podcast, Molly Rose Levine. I don't know the number of her episode, but I can tell you after we record and I'll
Sure.
look it up. Yeah, she said basically the same exact thing. She was working for not for profit, Clowns Without Borders, which was like fascinating. I hadn't heard of it, but
Wow.
exactly what it sounds like. And she just hit a point similar. She was like, yeah, doing all this stuff, wanted to do her own thing. And but also on the flip, she was also coming to terms with like, wow, now looking back, I'm seeing how easy it was to kind of put a stake in the ground for someone else's, but now it's mine. Now it's mine, and it is more vulnerable, and it does have this kind of different sense, and navigating a really similar thing. But she also was coming from the NGO world. But what feels hardest or most unclear? Like, do you feel like you're guessing when it comes to building these? Do you feel like you have a pretty good idea of what to do?
I think I'm just willing to see what happens. Like I did in 2022, I launched like a dating thing, right? I was like new energy work around dating and then whatever else. I kind of like created this whole thing out because I'd done dating apps. I met my partner on them. I love dating apps. I love dating. It's like such a rich period for like figuring out your stuff and like seriously, like I had the best experience on dating apps. I could tell the story the other way. I went on a lot of first dates. I met a few weirdos, uh, some sketchy situations, but I don't tell the story that way because it's just not how I saw it. But anyways, and so I paid for ads and I did the thing and I loved it so much and I was so excited and like nothing. And so this time I'm like, I just don't have any expectations. I kind of like reviewed back who I'm working with, who do I love, who feels like, a spark in the machine in terms of like clients in the last while. And it was like, oh, it's these people. And so and then I think I just like kind of remove the money pressure. So maybe it'll be $10. And if one person shows up, I'm okay with that. Maybe it'll be more. So the group thing doesn't really feel hard. I think what feels hard is, oh, do I have to make a flyer and I have to post it on Facebook? And like, so it's still like the marketing stuff. Like, I understand that's necessary, but I wish it wasn't. Yeah.
Is there anything else that has felt heavier than you thought it would in entrepreneurship?
I would say the feeling of doing it alone. I think that is like I can feel it now. Because I think for me, there's been a few times along the way where I thought this is it, right? Like I'm quite an excitable person and I'm like, oh my God, this is it. But I've never stopped moving. And I heard a quote and I'm going to butcher it. And I don't know who said it, but it was like, you can only move at the speed of the group. And I don't know if you're into human design at all, but I'm like a 3-5. So like the martyr heretic. So you put me in a group and I see the holes and I see what's happening. And I also think, oh, but this is wonderful. If we can see it, we can do something about it. And it just makes groups really painful for me. And so it's like, all right, that means like most business communities or like the modality I was in, I and I really tried hard to make changes and to advocate for what I saw. And I'm also the martyr, which means that if something's going to go wrong, it's probably going to happen to me. And then I'm going to come up with a system how it'll never happen to anyone else again. And then I'm going to say, hey, here's this thing. What if we did this? And they're going to tell me that doesn't work or they don't have time for that or the money. And I'm going to be hurt and disillusioned, but stay longer. Anyways, yada, yada, yada. I'm done doing that. And I think, too, so now I'm just like in this place of like, I have to build it. Right. So it's like, if I want something, it's the same as dating. And this is my concept of dating. It was like, well, if I exist, he exists. Because I was looking for a dude, right? And so it's just like, so now I'm just like, well, if I exist, they exist, and I just have to be there. I have to show up. And so, yeah, there's still like, I think that doesn't feel hard, but that's been historically what's felt hard. And I also joined a networking group for women, and they're all older women just by happenstance. And none of them do anything remotely like this. We've got skincare, whatever. We've got kitchen renovations, whatever else. And I've been in that group for 3 years. And the first time one of them came for a session was last week. But I just show up and they know me and they cheer for me and you're in school and you're doing this and you're doing that. So it's just kind of like I don't know. It's not anything holistic. It's not anything energy. It's not anything therapy, but it's just been like a community that is a little bit more, I don't know. Yeah. So I don't feel like I'm doing it alone anymore, even though I am doing my own thing. Yeah.
Last question I'm going to ask today before we wrap up. If you could wave a magic wand and have one thing solved or fixed for you in your building process, what would it be?
Yeah, marketing for sure. Someone made the things and they're posting it, but not AI because I'm not using AI. I think I can't handle it. So, yeah.
Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today to have this conversation. And for those of you who are listening, if any part of this resonated, you're in the right place, please reach out. I want to hear from you. And if you want to reach Amanda directly, the links to her website, Instagram, and booking page are in the show notes. Thank you again, Amanda. And to everyone else, thank you for listening. And we'll see you for the next episode of Ren Behind the Practice.